What up, what up, what up, what up, Detroit and the world? How you doing? My name is Keith Butler, and I'd like to welcome you all to the Hook Podcast. We're coming to you, as always, from the Six-Hole Studio right here behind the Detroit Golf Club, which is really my house, but, you know. Anyway, I'm here with my co-host, Jeffrey Lowe. What's up, Jeff?
The Hook.
And we brought back Michael Hudson. We had a good talk with him on the last podcast. And he brought up an interesting topic. He found something from a friend he's looking for now, a quote. But the gist of it is, Mike, you want to talk about it? You want me to give the gist?
Well, I mean, I'll do it.
Okay, go ahead.
I need to hear my voice.
Well, look.
Let Mike hear his voice.
He's going to hear it, but the gist of it is, and this is a topic Mike brought up, and it just got me to thinking, it's kind of on a religious basis. But the gist of it is if we as black people were not brought over and into the bondage of slavery, if we were not thrust into the bondage of slavery, this is when it gets deep. This is where it gets really interesting. Would we be Christian? Would we believe in the Christian faith? And it kind of makes you think, because every religion prior to Christianity had their own faith and their own beliefs. Vikings were pagans because they believed in the wind god, the tree god, and, you know, Almighty God and stuff like that. Oh, Mike just pulled it up. Go ahead and read it right quick, Mike.
Yeah, it says, black people must understand, if it wasn't for slavery, most of you all wouldn't be Christians. Now,
that is a deep, deep thought. Like I was saying, all the other races years ago, back in, you know, before Christ, year way medieval, before medieval England, you know, 1613, 1400, 1200 BC and all that junk, they had their own forms of beliefs. The Romans and the Greeks believed in the sun gods and the wind gods. The Indian Native Americans believed in the wind gods and the gods of the plains and all that. So there were multiple gods goddesses that cultures believed in. And then all of a sudden, you get this Christian faction that comes in with the missionaries, and they colonize everything. Everywhere they go, they colonize everything, and therefore, while they're doing their colonization, they force upon the people that they are overrunning and taking over and colonizing their form of religion, which in a way is an institution of control, because if you lose everything you know, you lose who you are, who you were, and then you have to become something different. And the only way to fit in is to understand what you become. And then in doing so, you forget where you were or who you were. So that's a good question.
Yeah, and Mike, can you repeat that one more time for our audience?
I mean, that just kind of blew me away. We were talking about that before we came on air, and it just kind of blew me away.
It says, black people must understand, if it wasn't for slavery, most of you all wouldn't be Christians.
I mean, think about that. And that can go for any race of people across the board. Well, maybe not any race, you know, because most of the Christians were white. Or, you know, I don't know, Spanish, Portuguese, whatever. I don't know, the European. But the thing is that, I mean, it gives you something to think about. What were we? What did we believe before we were forcibly converted?
Forcefully.
Yes. I mean, you know, now we're born into it because it's been part of our culture and our history for so long. But prior to, what did we believe? You know, who were we? Did we walk around with little wooden idols, which were considered pagan, you know, of little men, of little deer, of little trees? What? Anybody tell me. What do you think?
Well, I know for me, you know, when I read the post, I immediately became guilty.
Why guilty?
Because anytime, you know, we've been taught anytime you read something in the Bible, and if you question it, well, now you're questioning
God.
God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when I read that, it sent a chill down my spine, and I thought about it, and I've thought about this before. You know, I'm like, okay, so the people that was over in Africa, you know, that don't know anything
Nothing.
about Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
So you saying all of those people that lived then, they didn't go to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, they didn't know anything about Christian, you know, the Bible version until, you know, we came here, and it was, I'm not going to say forced upon us.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you know,
You can say for us.
you know, this is the what you need to believe in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then without having, and generations, now the first generation of slaves that came over here that still had prior knowledge of their religion and things like that, they beat it out of them.
Yeah.
So of course, as that generation died off, by this time now, the religion that we believe in now is sort of
Embedded.
is embedded in it.
Yeah.
So we don't. I couldn't talk to cousin Badulu, you know, and the way he passed his knowledge down to me. So at that point, it's cut off. And when I read that, you know, I'm thinking, you know, it had to be some truth to it, like you said. You know, unfortunately, we don't know what did they had to believe in something.
Yeah, and you know,
Yeah.
you came up with the name Obulu, even though you know we don't know if that's a real name, and you said pass it on because I know historically in African culture there were
Yes.
They
oracles.
worship something.
No, but there were
Some-
oracles, and oracles were those who contained the entire history
Yes.
of your, say we call them your clan, your tribe.
No, don't say clan. Just,
Oh, I'm sorry.
just say
Well, I
tribe.
said clan with a C.
Well,
Okay,
you know,
but
it's
tribe.
hard to say.
I
that,
don't like
right?
saying tribe because tribe.
Yeah.
But anyway,
But
yeah,
tribe-
your people. Let's say that.
Right.
The oracle contained the history of your entire people, from day one to every birth and every child's names, who they married, and so forth like that. So, yeah, that would probably the same thing happened with the religion, as far as their beliefs. The oracle probably passed it on and carried that with them until they found a new oracle to take over for them. So that in a sense was a form of religion, even if it wasn't. And disclaimer: we know you're not used to us talking about religion because we really don't. We generally talk about all kind of crap and stupidity. But Mike came up with this one, and we just had to share it with you.
And if I can
Go
cut
ahead.
in, and it's unfortunate because a lot of time, and to be honest with you, I sent this quote to a couple of my biblical scholar friends. You know, and I've noticed nobody has replied to it.
Yeah,
And I got a sneaky feeling why, because when you read that, you automatically think that you questioning Christianity, which Christianity is a name that's here in America. Like you said, it was amazing when I had Mr. Wilson and I had Mr. Johnson as African American history. They hated the word Afro. But when we learned that they had people, when you was born in a certain village, your only sole responsibility was to know the oral history of your group. Can you imagine you got somebody that can sit down and take you all the way back? You know, so we didn't write stuff down.
Right.
You know, so, and when I read that, I'm like, okay, you know, so far, even when you know, that's why I'm planning my first trip to Africa. You know,
Oh, nice.
because when you go into the caves, you know, they had drawings that depict information, like the birthing chair. They were surprised when they went into King Tut's tomb, and they saw a lady sitting on a chair giving birth because of gravity. Your baby can't come up; it goes down.
Yeah.
So it showed that everything we did was done visually or orally. Now we come over here as slaves. And dealing with the fact that, at least other groups. One thing I can say about the Jews, because I worked at, and this is really was weird. I was the videotape when the Holocaust Memorial Center was in West Bloomfield. I was the videotape.
The black guy.
Yeah, I did. I did the taping, and one thing I can say about the Jewish people, see, a lot of their culture and history has been documented by them. And when they came over here, they was able to bring that. So when I was in the museum, now me and Rabbi Rosenzweig, we used to always have these, I don't want to get up to time, but we used to always have these great debates. Well, the Holocaust is the worst thing. I said, but just think.
Slavery.
The slavery. I said, just think, Rabbi, but it was only, you say on a million of you guys.
About 6 million.
6 million, but the amount of people that were lost on the journey over here, that number is never known.
Yeah.
I don't like to say yours is worse than mine. Just say that they were two travesties that should not have happened.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, the quote on the Christianity, when you think of it, what did we believe before we became indoctrinated with Christianity in this country? Then right quick, now this white Christian nationalism.
Oh, that's old. That's nothing new.
I know.
That's
I'm
been
just
going
saying,
on forever.
It's making its comeback.
Yeah,
which
it's coming back.
And
Due to our president and the vice president and those cronies. Yeah.
Now, Jeff, in terms of when you hear that statement, how do you feel?
When I hear this statement,
Yes.
I have to hear it a number of times.
Read it to him again.
Yeah, no. Listen, it says black people must understand.
Must understand. Okay.
If it wasn't for
If
slavery,
it wasn't for slavery,
most of you all wouldn't be Christians.
That's a heavy statement.
that's a heavy statement, and I don't know how they can make that determination.
Well, it's just like we were saying, Lo, when Christianity, you think about things like the Spanish Inquisition, where they would actually take people and torture them until they believed what they wanted to believe. You think about England, when you had the Protestants and the Catholics always fighting because the Protestants wanted the Catholics to believe one way, the Catholics wanted the Protestants to believe their way.
Mm-hmm.
You think about King James version of the Bible, where he changed it because he didn't want the church to rule the kingdom. So he wrote his own Bible. You think about the slave Bible that was written because they wanted slaves to believe a certain way.
Right.
And it made them feel better when they were coming through the oh my God, what is that thing? The triangular trade. I forget the exact name for it. But transatlantic trade.
Yeah.
When they were bringing slaves over and trading them for guns and rum and sugar and all that junk, they had a specific Bible that they read to the slaves that said, okay, you must obey your master and all that. They took out all kind of stuff. And so that was all forced on, not just us, but everywhere they went. These missionaries, Asia, Russia, Greece, wherever they went, they took this religion with them. You believe in something completely different than I believe in. I'm a missionary. I'm bringing Christianity with me and Mike. And we run up into your village, and you're running around however you're dressed, thanking the God of corn for a great harvest. We're like, no, that's not what it is. It's one God. One God. You said, no, well, we've got the God of corn, the God of sun, the God of wheat, the God of the forest, the God of rivers, the God of the sun, God of the land. No. Our God contains all of that. He is Alpha and Omega. He's got all that in body. No, that's not how it works for us. Well, that's how it's going to work now. Either believe this or, we're going to convince you one way or another.
Right. I mean, and I don't mean to cut you off, but
Well, you did a good job of it.
yeah. Well, I'm sorry.
No problem.
I'm sorry. Hopefully, you invite me back.
Probably not, but go ahead.
But no, but okay, but you still ask the question, Jeff. But but this
Think
is
about
the
it.
question. Most black people must understand.
If
If it wasn't for slavery, how would
we know about Christianity?
Christianity? It wasn't in Africa.
No.
Right.
So it wasn't like they came over like the
Well,
Africans that they brought over here.
Already knew it.
Right.
We did.
We didn't. It was forced
That's what we're saying.
upon
That-
us.
So
and
what
that's
did we believe?
Right. He said like you said, most of us currently would not we wouldn't believe in Christianity because unfortunately we don't know anything else.
And why would we? You think about thousands of years, we didn't see white people. Then all of a sudden, they show up and they've got this black book in their hands, or whatever color it was back then, with the words Holy Bible on it. Mm-hmm. And they're slapping it down on our face, in our faces, saying, this is what you need to know to get to our heaven, to survive, to live a healthy Christian life. And once you die, you go from this planet and ascend. Well, no.
And this is what you need to believe in.
I'm going to Valhalla. So the Viking said, I want to honorable this. I want to die in a war and go sit with my fathers in the halls of Valhalla. That's what I'm believing. No, Valhalla doesn't exist. If I'm pronouncing that right, I hope I am. But it's the old Viking realm of heaven, I guess you could call it that. That's where I want to go when I die. No, you don't go there. You go to heaven. And if you don't do right, then you're going to go to hell. What the heck is hell? I don't know.
Right.
But that's what they brought over and enforced on people, that this is how you have to believe. And I never even thought about that before, Mike, before you brought that over here. Now I'm screwed up.
Well, no,
I'm
like I
screwed up,
said,
man.
I mean, and it's just
And I've
really
already had
sad.
questions about religion as I've gotten older.
When I read
This
that,
don't help.
I sent it to a couple of people. Then, I got scared that, like I'm questioning God, but I'm not. It's the fact that, when you look at Christianity and you look at just the nature of the writings, it's unfortunately the nature of the writings mean that slavery should have never existed. That means hunger should never be in place now. Homeless should never be in place right now. If you look at just the pure words of, take care of your fellow man. And unfortunately, you and I both know that when you drive down the street and see people sleeping on the street. Just the sweet nature of the words, we still don't live up to that. But so when you look at Christian, you wonder, well, if that's the case, how could you believe in those words and enslave somebody for 400 years? That's the thing that, when I had this dialogue with certain people, I remember, I was in history class at Wayne State and talking with the professor, and the example I gave, because there was some, Europeans in the class. I said, no, you want to understand, this is just a simple version of the economics that I look at it. I said, I want 10 of y'all to work for me for the next year. Every money you get, I want you to give it to me. But you're going to sleep in my garage. I'm going to control your every thought process. I'm going to control what you see and what you read. But I only want you to give me all of your money for 1 year. Then we're going to multiply that. I added up everybody's salary. Now we're going to multiply that by 400 years. Because recently, every year at Greenfield Village, during African History Month, they have a dedication to out there. And it was funny. I was looking at the drinking fountain, and when I saw in 1863, I immediately thought, man,
It's been a
you
long
mean-
time.
no, I said I immediately thought, just thinking 1993, that was only 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now you flip it to, 2003. You know, that's why, when I hear that, I say, I can see 1,000 years from now if our conditions are still in the same year. But 400 years is a long time. And when you read that, but if you read the sweet words that's in the Bible, if only if we live up to it, it wouldn't be no hunger.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause like I was explaining earlier, I was talking with a person that had moved to the Netherlands. And we got on religion. And he was saying, man, you'd be surprised, Mike, over there, they have, like some of her family, they don't believe in God. They believe in self. If you want to believe in Christianity, you have to go find the Catholic Church.
You have to search it out.
Right. If you want to believe in a Muslim, you have to go search it out. But the average person, he said, her brothers and sisters, they don't believe in God. So I said, see, here they will be considered atheists.
Right. Yeah. Or
But
agnostic.
when you read that of the core of it, like I said, I sent that to some of my serious biblical scholars.
And hadn't heard back from him yet.
No.
And I ran into a friend of mine at the gym, like we were talking about earlier, and it's kind of off the subject, but kind of on the subject. It makes you, and I don't want people to get mad at me or call me an atheist or anything like that, but it makes me wonder about the existence of God sometimes. I grew up believing in him. My father's a pastor. Like we talked earlier, church every Sunday, church affairs all week. But even as a child, I always wondered about God's parents or where he came from. And the answer is always, I'm Alpha and Omega. I'm always there. And I always say people need something to believe in. So I understand that people believe in that. I did. I do. But I do question it sometimes. I'm at the point in my life now, I'm 66 years old, and I believe that that religion, all religions in a lot of ways serve two purposes. One is for belief, to give people something to believe in, something to follow, something to help guide their lives by. The other I believe is an institution of control. And if you go back, like we said earlier, you look at the Spanish Inquisition, you look at the missionaries who went all across the world and imposed their will and their religion on people who already had their beliefs. And you look at slavery and the conditions that slaves were put in and what they were forced to believe. It kind of makes you wonder. I'm not trying to change anybody's views. I'm not telling you not to believe in God. No. I'm not telling you to follow me. I'm not a pastor. I could probably pick out 3 verses in the Bible, maybe. But it makes one think. And I've always wondered about that, but this phrase that Mike brought to us today, please read it one more time because it really messes with me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if we were not brought in from Africa, would we be Christians?
Right.
Would we believe in the Christian faith? What would you believe in if you lived in Africa and never came over and missionaries never came and colonized Africa? What would be our faith?
Right. I mean, and I was glad you put that in there as a caveat, that they colonized Africa.
They
See,
colonized everywhere.
Right. So that, when they went over there and colonized, of course, by the time those started to arrive, those Africans started to arrive, they've already been taught Christianity. But
The
before that
indoctrination has been
happened,
done.
right, before that happened, what did we believe in?
I don't know.
And that's is a fault of mine because,
Well, what did the Africans believe?
Right.
That's what we're talking about.
Right.
Right.
What did you as an African
before?
think about? I'm sorry, Mike. Let me just interject right quick. Think about this is Africa, 1410. Okay, or further back still. What do Christianity? Whenever Christianity's got there, think about prior to Christianity getting there. I don't know when Christianity got to Africa or got to Asia or got to Russia or got anywhere. But think about all those countries, all those continents, all those places. What were they like before Christianity was introduced? What did the Russians believe in? What did the Asians believe in? What did the Africans believe in? What did the Greeks believe in? What did the Romans believe in? Who knows? But there was a time before Christianity was imposed on these people and it became indoctrinated in their livelihoods. What did they believe in? We know that the Vikings and other countries had little idols that they believed in. And we know, according to the Ten Commandments, the Lord said, there will be no other gods before me except me, so get rid of all these idols. And they were all destroyed and gotten rid of. But before that, what did the Jews believe in? What did anybody believe in prior to this new religion, Christianity, before it landed on in your country and was forcibly and they forcibly indoctrinated you into this belief? What was it? Mike, I don't know.
I mean,
you messed me up today, Mike.
No, and
I'm never gonna have you back over here.
And the reason why, like I said, when I talked to my friend earlier, and when he told me, he said even now over in the Netherlands, her family don't believe in God; they believe in self.
Yeah, and so was that all? Was that what they believed in before?
Well, I mean, I'd assume yes. But once again, it's like if you see something like that, you feel guilty. Oh, now I'm questioning God.
Kind of, yeah.
And is even when I started to read the Bible for myself, it was almost like I don't know what made I turn to that page, and it says, "Study and show thyself approved." It don't say study and show somebody else through a pastor. And God was telling me, Mike, you can read this. You're supposed to read this Bible yourself, and the interpretation that I give you, that's what you go by. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, we used to go and sit in that church and whatever the pastor say. But when I said, well, then if everything that God meant in the Bible, why would he put that in there?
Yeah.
It says study and show who? Yourself.
Now, I mean, again, I will, let me say this. I'm not trying to convince some people to give up religion. I'm not doing that.
Right.
Please believe that we are not condoning that.
Right.
We are just expressing ourselves and some thoughts that we have. And that's the great thing about podcasts, because you guys know generally Jeff and I and Stein and all, we get real silly. We fuss, we cuss, we argue. But that's the wonderful thing about podcasting, is that you can talk about anything you want. You can change the narrative. You can change how the emotion of the podcast. But this one just kind of blew me. We did a podcast earlier, and Mike brought this up. I don't know why he did, but I was like, we just need to talk about this. And it really messed us up. And we're out of time, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you all again for joining us on The Hook. Again, do not go with what I'm saying. Remember, one more time, black people must understand, if it wasn't for slavery, most of y'all wouldn't be Christian. Think about that. Think about that. I'm Keith Butler. I'm signing off. I'd like to thank my guest and good friend for many years, Michael Hudson, our co-host and good buddy for many years, Jeffrey Lowe. You guys got anything else to say before you sign? Good. Don't say anything else.
The hook.
The hook. Everybody have a good time. Think about it. And, again, it's just opinions. Thanks for listening. Peace.